We'll advance it old school manual. There we go. So I'm going to talk to you for a bit. I promise it'll be as little as possible because you really don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from Marcos. He's the one that really put a lot of great sustainability in place. You want to hear from Mustafa because, like anyone, your garbage man knows a lot about you, right? When they're picking up your garbage, Mustafa knows a lot about what happens in the labs. So he's going to be able to talk to you a bit about what he's seeing on the back end. And then what we really want to hear is from you. We want to hear ideas, what you guys are seeing in these lab spaces so we can get better at it. So I have to tell you a quick story because last night I was talking to my sons. I said, oh, tomorrow I'm nervous. I got to go talk to these students for sustainability and they're going to fix stuff. And I love that. And let's fix stuff. And my son says to me, Dad, you're sustainable. And I looked at him and said, well, thank you. And he goes, you got to be the most sustainable. And immediately sons, you know, they pick up on my other goes, yeah, Dad, you're sustainable. My oldest son goes, you're bald. And I said, what? How does that make me sustainable? He goes, well, you don't need much shampoo. So that makes you very sustainable because that's less sulfates going out, you know, down the drain and into the coral and all that. So Dad, rock on, you're sustainable. I said, thank you. My second son, being the smart Alec that he is, he goes, yeah, Dad, your head reflects heat up. So that's really good too. So you're helping to lower, you know, some of the heat that's being absorbed by the planet. I said, thank you, I think. That one hurt a bit, I won't lie. And then my last son, being more of an engineering guy, looks at me and goes, man, you're aerodynamic too. So that means less drag, which means you need less food, which means you're sustainable and saving all those resources that it would take to feed me. So turns out I'm sustainable. I'll look forward to seeing all of you with shaved heads tomorrow. No? Okay. Well, I thought that was kind of funny, interesting, children. I may have made that up too. You don't know. But I do have a plan. This is straight out of the United States. They have a new plan to fight climate change. We are finally going to switch to the metric system from Fahrenheit, which will mean an instant 70-degree reduction. We go from 100 degrees down to 30 degrees. So we will have met our climate accords and the United States will be back in business. So what do you think of that? So really, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Again, keep the passion. Keep going with this. This is really important, right? And the question for me is, how can we, KAUST, really maximize that passion? So what can we do together that's going to elevate our sustainability game, right? And the good news is there's some stuff out there already. Mark also talked to you about, Mustafa, I'll talk to you about it. But the first one is we have the International Institute for Sustainable Laboratories. Anybody logged on their stuff? We should all be logging in on their stuff. We should be checking out because they're sponsored by the United Nations. They've got some great resources out there. They've got some great things that we can all tap into. It's there already, right? And they're championing this race to zero. And it's very, very, very central to what you're doing here at KAUST. So the other things that are out there is this My Green Labs, and they have these programs like Green Chemistry, My Green Labs certification. How awesome would it be if KAUST Labs were the first in the Middle East to get My Green Lab certification? What's stopping us? Nothing, right? And then the freezer challenge. So this is kind of cool. They pioneer these things where they want institutions to go out and look at their energy consumption around biological freezers. They want you to look at alternatives, right? We all know refrigerants. A lot of them are banned nowadays. A lot of them aren't so good for the environment. So why isn't one of those pictures of KAUST? Why don't we take on this freezer challenge? It's a lot cooler than the Mentos challenge my kids were talking about. Did you guys see that? That's how old I am. That was cool back when I knew. But, you know, it's something worthwhile. And KAUST should be up there, right? We've got the young people. We've got the intelligence. We've got some money out there. I hear about some kind of money floating in the ether out there. But these are all things that we can achieve together, right? So what else can we do? Can we start a local chapter of this International Institute for Sustainable Labs? Championed, pioneered here at KAUST. Possible? 100%. Can we maybe spawn some working groups? I hope that comes out of our whiteboard sessions today, some brainstorming, right? What can we do as a group? I guarantee you, if the Students for Sustainability started to pen white paper saying we want to do, people will get out of your way. That the weight you have is significant, right? Can we attend conference? So in October 16th, I want to say, they're meeting in Pittsburgh, the International Institute for Sustainable Laboratories. Should we be attending? Should we be presenting? Right? Projects and papers, things we've accomplished. Should we be there getting an award? I would probably say, yeah, that's what Causta is. This is who we are. We're going to be out front, right? My dad always says it's better to be the lead sled dog than the one in the back. The view's a lot better, right? So you want to be that. But the other thing, do we go around and challenge other universities in Saudi Arabia, in the GCC? We have a little throwdown with them, right? And then we're giving them awards. Would that be something worthwhile? A few of you all go and check out a sister brother laboratory. We check them out. We say, you're doing good. We'd like to give an award too. I think that would be pretty neat. Training and webinars. Can we expand what we've done here and hold a webinar of our own for the universities of the GCC? Nothing stopping us. And then my ideal goal would be one day, you guys are hosting an International Institute for Sustainable Laboratories worldwide conference. And why not? This little place called Neom you might have heard about, didn't they say they want to be net zero? Right? They got 1.2 trillion they're spending. By the way, the 1.2 trillion Norway Sovereign Wealth Fund just announced they want to be net zero by 2050. So there's a little bit of interest in this nowadays, right? Start putting 1.2 trillion in behind and things happen. So can we host a conference? So my point to you and what we hope to come out of this a bit, as Marcos talks to you about the art of the possible and Mustafa reveals the things you're throwing away that you shouldn't, we won't hold you accountable. Okay, we might hold them a little bit accountable. No, but what can we do to change the discussion? Does waste not become waste anymore? Does waste become a part of your research? So I kind of look forward today when I read a holistic paper and the paper talks about your awesome research, but then there's a bit in it on how you did it sustainably. There's a bit in there on how you did it safely. Here's the key notes you need, right? That's holistic research. We're presenting the entire picture, not just the way a genome functions under stress or these other factors, right? So we can advance that and change the game. So we can start looking at this, right? Your waste out of your lab might be someone just down the way. It might be their research. Or maybe you pioneer a new way to deal with that waste coming out. So with that, I'd like to turn to my friend and colleague, Marcos. He and some friends from facilities management did a great job of reducing our energy usage, which is also a part of these laboratories. So Marcos.
Thank you, Dwight. I'll have the honor to introduce you to some of the current initiatives that we have with facility management. So here with me, there is 3 members from facility management, but behind them, there is an army of dedicated staff that are also looking at how we can save energy using so many initiatives. And because we're focusing on labs, we'll talk about first of how the labs consume energy. There's some research, there's some papers, publications, especially from the Department of Energy in the States, that laboratories consumes 5 to 10 more energy than an office building. And that is because in laboratories we have massive equipment, ovens, furnaces, we have autoclaves that they are big consumer of energy. We have fume hoods that also have some points there to discuss regarding fume hoods. And we have laboratories that even consume more, like the animal facility, the clean rooms, labs that require a lot of ventilation. They just are a monster consuming energy. So they say that typically a research institution will have 60 to 65%, almost 70 in a lot of cases, that electricity is consumed in research spaces. And this is very similar here at CAUS. I will show you one example from consumption from one lab, and you will see how that is affected, and especially from ventilation, from cooling and heating. Now, fume hoods was in the title of this presentation. Fume hoods, believe it or not, fume hoods consume almost 3.5 the energy from a house. Yes, that's right, 3.5. And that's because the energy that is consumed from a fume hood is the air that it supplies to the fume hood, and it's gonna just get exhausted. It doesn't get recirculated. It will go just back to the atmosphere. It's air that has been conditioned, so filtered, cooled, probably even filter even more, and then supply in the right conditions and temperature to the lab. And then it's just like money flying away to the atmosphere. So fume hoods are energy monsters. A little bit of also lab ventilation. We have a state-of-the-art facilities. Yeah, we have some kind of a smart buildings, but guess what? You're smarter, and we need you to participate. In this simple example, we have a lab with some fume hoods and some local exhaust. Those fume hoods are connected to VAVs, variable air valves, that actually modulate the open or close depending on the need from that lab space. So when you leave the fume hood open, and remember, we're talking also about safety here, when you leave the fume hood open, just because it's convenient to put things in and out to work inside the fume hood, and we see many times bad behaviors and sticking your head too inside of the fume hood, getting into the danger zone, right? By closing the doors or closing the windows as much as possible, lowering the sash, you're actually saving energy and saving you from a potential incident. So this is because it's modulating by these valves that are interstitial. And same thing with the door in the lab. Just because it's convenient to go in and out without opening the door every time you go in, that doesn't make the lab safe, because in the event of a gas leak, spill, all those chemical smells, other toxic gas leak will go out to the service corridor, or even worse, to public spaces, to sitting office spaces just outside the lab. So for energy saving and for safety, please keep your doors closed. In the lab ventilation management program, something that we started back in 2019, we also try to save energy by changing the control bands for every different type of lab. Before, when CAS was built, that was like all the labs were the same. Just have the same ventilation and run it. But now, with time and with energy, of course, being more expensive every day, now laboratories that don't need that high level of ventilation, so that's the air changes per hour, how many times the air is refreshing in a room, supply fresh air and then exhausted, how many times per hour is changing. So in some labs, like electronics, robotics lab, we need low ventilation. Labs that handle higher demand of chemical and biological materials, then that would be moderate ventilation. So the value that we agree is 4 to 6 air changes per hour. And then for labs that are heavy chemistry, they handle large amount of gases or chemicals, it falls into high ventilation. So that's something that we started back in 2019. And also together with the lab ventilation management program, some programs to hibernate some fume hoods that are not in use, or even some labs that are currently in hibernation mode. No research is being done in these places, waiting for a new faculty to arrive. We can be saving energy, not just by switching the lights, but also reducing the ventilation to a minimum. We got a 2-minute video here for these tips. More on the energy tips. So you saw that, turn the lights off, fume hoods and freezers. Fume hoods, I already explained the reason for being safe and being sustainable at the same time. The doors, I also already explained, for in the event of any gas leak, any incident, you will stay inside the lab, will not go to public spaces. Freezers, Yeah, something that also we're poking into LEM, lab equipment maintenance, and some of the laboratories that we have a lot of freezers. And when you open those freezers, some of them are with a lot of ice inside, so that will make them not efficient. Yeah, it's a big rock solid of ice in there, and just a tiny space where you're gonna store your items. Or freezers that are completely empty. So why not shutting those freezers that are not in use and save some energy? From this initiatives from the Department of Energy in the States, they say -70 is the new -80, because -80 is already too cold. Yeah, your sample will be as well as conserve and maintain at -70. So think about that as well, that you can be saving up to 40% just by reducing or increasing the temperature to -70. And the freezer challenge that Dwight mentioned at the beginning. And the lights, why it's important to turn the lights off. It's not just saving energy from the electricity, it's also saving energy from ventilation. Told you, labs are quite smart, buildings are quite smart, but you are smarter. By turning the lights off, you also be helping to reduce the ventilation. The ventilation will go into a standby mode, just to call it that way, and ventilation will be reduced when nobody's there. Yeah, when you go back and do research or at the beginning of the day, you turn the lights on, and then it's like you're in business again. Yeah, ventilation comes back on, and you'll be safe. So these are some of the initiatives that I wanted to talk about, and then I got Prabhu just for one slide on additional current FM initiatives. Prabhu?
Thanks, Marcus. Good afternoon. So we, facility management, of course, it's support from different departments. We have started some initiatives. One of them is the lab energy statement. You need the data basically, right? There is no point of talking about sustainability unless you do not have any information about it. Whether I am really consuming a lot of energy or I'm not consuming, maybe I'm less consuming energy. So we need the data first to start with. So this is a sample of the bill where you have all the informations. Like for example, building 2, level 2, area 3, the lab information, what is the month? It's August 2020. This is just a sample, by the way. Don't stick to your lab information. So this is kilowatt hour information, how much is the cost? It's about carbon footprint, all the information so you can get it. So this shows how much energy you're consuming in the lab. And also we are sharing the information comparing with the previous years. If you are in 2022, where were you in 2021? Are you doing above or below? Or maybe you are doing the same. So this is the first one. Second one is open doors. Thanks to Marcus, he already explained why you need to close the door when it is not really needed. When you come out of the lab, make sure that you close the door. Because if you leave the door open, the ventilation goes to the maximum. It's not just ventilation, supply and ventilation, so which consumes a lot of energy. So if it's not needed, you are done with your work, come out, close the door. We have a system to capture, how long the door is open and how much energy is really spent on it. So this is a sample graph by building and by month. You may be seeing a lot of, door open captured in the month of June, around May, June, because that was, before that it was a COVID time. This is a record from 2020, I guess, 2021. And after we opened the lab, opened the university, it started going up. The third one is the light schedule. By 7 p.m., the light turns off in the lab. Doesn't mean that you cannot turn off your lights. You can still turn on your lights. Safe and sustainable, right? In the name of sustainable, you don't want to do your research in the dark. So manually, you can still go on, turn on the lights. Okay. Any questions on this?
No. Thank you,
Thank you.
Prabhu. Yeah, so that's what we wanted to share with you regarding FM initiatives. And now to Mustafa. Something is going on with the Yeah, try.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for organizing this event. Okay, how much you are producing? Okay, remember I'm the waste management guy, so I know your secrets, your dark secrets. Okay, usually we are producing, as per this study, over the last 5 or 6 years, about 100 tons of hazardous waste, little bit more than 100 tons of this hazardous waste per year. This is combined both chemical and biological waste. Usually, this is like a rough, almost most of the years, about 6% the chemical hazardous waste and less than this, like 40% for the bio waste. This means like maybe the chemists are much more active or the bio are a little bit wiser in the reducing the waste. This judgment is up to you. Right. Just to compare this to the regular waste, as per the Saudi Statistical Authority, this is an excellent website, especially for those sustainability working personnel. Go through this website. It will give you an amazing data in Saudi Arabia about everything: waste management, reduction of the CO2 emissions, and everything about the waste. An average person can produce in 1 year about half a ton, 500 kilograms of regular waste. Comparing this to our lab, it means our annual hazard waste is equivalent to the waste of one person over 200 years, or 200 persons in 1 year. You might say this looks fine. Actually, the hazardous waste is very expensive in everything. In management, even the containers we're using to hold the waste is very expensive. This is your secrets from the labs. This is the waste in 1 week, hazardous waste in the waste in lab pack area. Just to give you about how much the cost of the hazard waste items. Regular trash bag, this will cost about less than 1 riyal per bag. But for the hazard waste, this is a special design bag. It has a little bit more thickness and can stand the wear and tear of the hazard waste. 6 riyal per 1 bag. For the containers, plastic containers, the one that we're using for the waste, the one container, this is about 20 liters, 65 riyals per 1 container. While for the regular water container, this is and full with water from the stations outside, this is less than 3 riyals. So this is to give you an example how much the waste we are producing. Right. It all begins in the lab, like we started in this sustainability presentation. If you have a good management of your resources, you will have a good sustainability over the long term. This is a short story. One of the labs years ago, the ordered huge quantity of hazardous material, sulfuric acid, 98% concentration. Nobody used this material. It stayed in the lab for a long time. They did the good thing. They returned it back to the chemical warehouse. And again, nobody used them. They stayed there in the chemical warehouse. After years from storage, they start to leak. They start to cause problems. Okay, this was like an incident. We handled this incident. Okay, but it came with some outcomes. The man hour, we use people to fix this problem, and they were at risk when you are handling hazardous material. At the same time, consumables, we used so many kits, okay, to handle this, and so many absorbing material, vermiculite, and so to absorb this material and to handle it. The whole section in the chemical warehouse was closed. This is again sustainability about management, and you have to have access to your resources. If anyone asks for any material from this aisle at that day, we cannot provide it. It was closed at that day. Okay, we lost money. The whole asset plus the waste produced, this becomes hazardous waste. It's money lost. So the solutions to this, we need to reduce our waste. You have to be wise when you are designing your experiment in the lab from the beginning. It all starts in the lab. Order only what you need. We have a program in KAUST. It's called the reuse program. This is controlled by the SyQuest system, and it's for everything, for chemicals and consumables, the tools that they are using in the lab. And also you can share chemicals. Yani for the reuse program, this is for the items that you can go back to the chemical warehouse and another lab can purchase it free of charge. And you can share it while we are working in the lab through the Salute. The Salute, this is an HSE management system. It's like 2 years now. We are using this system to improve our management and how to control, improve our management control, asset management control in KAUST. This program, the reuse program, started in 2016. Since the beginning of this program, more than 100 researchers used this program in the first 2 years. They donated 3,000 chemicals, returned it back to the chemical warehouse. More than 1,500 researchers purchased it and reused this out of charge, reuse it again. There is a condition that the container has to be the original container and it has to be free from contamination. Right. The system, this program was active since it started in 2016. And this, we can see here the donation and the recycling or the reuse for both chemicals and for the consumables. We can see that till this moment, we have more than 3,000 items waiting for reuse, either chemicals or consumables. And guess what? They are free of charge. It means what? It means you are saving time, saving money, saving the environment. You can just purchase it at the same day. It will come to you without any charge. The reuse program, this is how to access this program. So through the procurement portal. I think most of you, they have access to this portal. You can go to the FAQ and guides. This will guide you through the system. For the salute, you have to go through the salute chemical inventory module. You log in to the system. There is an excellent video on our website that will explain to you how to use the system. Once you log into your community portal, you go to the chemical safety module. Inside this module, there are two important tabs. We have the chemical, the library and the inventory. In the inventory, this is how you're going to share the chemicals. You have to add it to a group owner or ownership. So you can see the chemicals used inside the group in the lab. Some labs, they have higher administration, so they can even see chemicals in other groups. So you can share chemicals inside the same group, or you can see chemicals in the whole university. Okay, this I think I finished. I hope this was useful and enjoyable. Okay.
Thank you. Well done. So I thought that was pretty good, kind of insightful, right? And some of the things we don't think about that Mustafa didn't touch on, we oftentimes monetize waste, 6 SAR, 65 SAR. But does that truly capture the landfill space? Does that capture being incinerated down in Rabig and that going up and the risk of that to our environment? So there's these other elements that, you know, are very important. The bio waste is autoclave, which is more energy, as Marcos discussed, and it is more landfill space. So these are elements that are very important, become more and more important as the planet creeps more and more, right? 8 billion. How many are we going to reach? Who knows? What's sustainable? Who knows? I'm hoping, again, smart people help us figure that out. And in the spirit of figuring this out, so what the research safety team and our friends from facility maintenance would like is we've given you the drops in the bucket. 2 programs, you know, Marcos's and FM's effort to save energy, Mustafa's efforts to drive down our waste. Those are just 2. What I would love to do is we got some whiteboards here, and I think we can maybe put one in the middle and make 3 teams. I would just like us to divide up, and I would like to hear about your research. So get with the team. We'd like to hear about what resources do you use? What impacts are you having in your research? Then talk about your research. What is your waste and what can we do to improve on that? And it might be just your research. It might be a great idea for the entire university, right? But I thought, why not finish the last 8 minutes here? We'll just throw some ideas on sticky notes and go. What do you think? Let's try it. I want to hear from you guys some good ideas. So we got one group here. We can use the